Welcome to Homefront Sitrep. I hope you're in for a great show today because I'm just a veteran talking about what's on my mind and maybe you.
You can find Homefront Sitrep on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. You can also check out Homefront Sitrep's YouTube channel.
Buckle up, the show is starting. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition, Sunday edition of Homefront Sitrep. How is everybody doing? Stalls, how are you, brother?
Well, man, it's been a very long week. I can't believe it's already going to be Monday again tomorrow. So,
Bro, you have, yeah, I'm right there with you. It has been a long ass week. I went to work today and got to go right back at it again tomorrow. It's not going to be fun. And of course, it's been raining for the last, what, 3 or 4 days here in Kentucky. So, it's just been crazy, man. Just been crazy.
oh yeah,
So I'd be glad when
yeah.
the rain's out of here.
Oh well, we're supposed to get some rain tonight here in South Florida, but I've been working on this project bike that I just picked up. Well, it
Yeah.
seems like every time I turn around, I'm having to fix something else. I open up Pandora's box, and poof, gotta buy
Yeah.
more parts.
Is that
So,
the new bike you just got?
well, it's the new to me bike I just got. Yes.
Mm,
So this bike hadn't been ridden very much over the last 5 or 6 years. So you let a bike sit long enough, there's going to be some problems with it. So
oh yeah, for sure.
slowly diagnosing those.
Dry rotted fuel lines and everything else that comes along with it.
Well, this was a throttle cable. Well, the decel cable. So the deceleration cable.
No.
It's frayed. So I'm having to replace it now. So
Well, you
fun
gotta love
times.
that. Gotta love that, man. Gotta love that.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, man, Derby the Kentucky Derby just happened. Did you happen to bet on the Kentucky Derby?
So no.
No?
I'm not into horse racing.
Okay, okay.
So
So, we go to a derby party every year, and it's one of our friends. So, it used to be right across the street. Then that couple moved to, Tampa, and then our other friends, they picked up the mantle and carried on the derby party. And, we had about roughly about 100 people there at the derby party. And what we do is we do, a couple $1 pots, and then go to a $5 and then a $20 pot. And $20 pot's the derby, so we'll have 2 $1 pots, a $5 pot, and a $20 pot just for the derby. And, there was this young kid, I think he was 16 years old, and what you do is you give him $20 and you draw a spoon or knife out of the cup, and whatever number's on that is your horse. Well, he luckily got the number 18 horse, and, he won, the big jackpot, and he's like, "I can go buy all kinds of Tide Pod," the Tide Pod sticks? The sticks
mhm.
that you put in, that's what he was just joking, but that's what he said he was gonna go buy. So, I just thought it was funny that this young kid, I think he was like 16, won the jackpot, but that's what it's all
Yeah,
about.
I don't own a fancy outfit.
I don't either.
I have khakis and polo shirts, and everything else is t-shirts and blue jeans.
Well, that's more fancy than I got. Well, I do have one suit, but that's only because I did a lot of veteran galas and stuff like that. That when I was doing the nonprofit world, in the nonprofit world, but I don't do that much anymore. So, but anywho, we got a great guest coming on tonight. So I met Brent a long time ago. I can't remember exactly when we met. Um, I think we got introduced off of a Facebook page. I had made a post out there for looking for veterans as for guests to come on the show, and he sent me an email a while back. So Brent is a Navy SEAL. Let me get his bio pulled back up here because I deleted or moved it. Um, do. I know I'm a little slacking today. Man, I tell you, it's been one of those weeks. It almost feels like it's a Monday. Um,
Every day this past week felt like a Monday. I think that's
yeah,
how it felt.
it's so crazy. All right, so retired Navy SEAL chief. So chief is what you got senior chief. So E6, E7, E6, E7. Is it 6 or 7? Just is just thumbs up for 6 or is it a 7? It's a 7. Okay, the 7. Okay. Uh, so he enlisted as a corpsman, which we know in Marines, we love our corpsmen. He was selected for SEAL training and went on to serve on 7 deployments with special operation units around the world. Um, with his qualifications and proven performance, he is highly sought after during the global war on terrorism. Yeah, so people on TikTok are answering me now. E7. Post retirement, he continues to serve in the role of doc, which we'll get into that. This time with an elevated vision to change the tide of the status quo of mental health care in the United States and the world, recognizing that mental health crisis, especially among veterans, has been found or he has found his new mission in advocating for legislative reform and policy change to improve access to quality medical care for many of those who struggle with the unseen wounds of trauma. He's an educator, speaker, medical and security industry consult, author, and podcaster, ready to greet the world with a smile and passion to leave it a better place for future generations. So he does have a podcast. It's called Two Promises Podcast, which we'll get into that. He's wrote a book. We'll get into that, and then everything else that he's doing out there. What's going on, Mr. Ty Cobb from Triple Threat Vets? podcast. And Gunny's on here too. What's going on, guys? So let's bring up Mr. Brent Loyd, and we're gonna get on here and talk to him. What's going on, sir? How are you?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for having me on the show. You guys' intro always gets me fired up. So I'm
Well,
ready.
thank you for
Let's
that.
do this.
That's actually our newest intro, and um, I I got to playing around with this AI music generator, and it came up with that kick-ass rock song, and then I was like, man, I got to change the whole video and everything to go with that rock song. So welcome to the show. Oh, that's loud. Welcome to the show, and if you don't mind, do me a favor, introduce yourself to the world of Homefront Sitrep, if you don't mind.
All right. Hey, Homefront Sitrep crew. My name is Brent Loyd. I've done 18 years in the military, and I came in, like you said, as a corpsman, and I was really excited to serve. I always wanted to be a SEAL. It took a little while to get there. You had to come in as a different Navy source rate in those days, and I did get a contract after boot camp in Corps school, but it took some doing. Um, there were some contractual things. You probably never believe that coming from a recruit station into boot camp, that there might be, some strange things going on with the contract so that they could fill some quotas or anything like that. So, I fell into that category, but we worked through it. And it was one of those times where it was just like being persistent, saying, this is where I want to go, and maintaining the physical standards, always passing those PSTs, physical screening tests, trying to get the top grades, trying to do everything you can, because anytime that there's any issue, any friction, it's that much harder to get orders. It's that much harder to get, to the place that you want to go. So things worked out. The path was laid out in front of me. Got to go to Buds, and from my background of being a corpsman, I went from Buds SQT to the Joint Special Operations Medical Training Center in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. It was a phenomenal course. I've been to tons of military courses throughout my career, and by far the product that you start with and the end result out of that course is the most phenomenal that I've experienced in all of the courses that I've been to. So I just want to give some kudos and props to them there. And I know that things have changed with who's all going there and stuff like that these days, but I was a super big fan. And then that kept me very, very well employed. So I did a lot of back-to-back deployments. I went from Fort Bragg to SEAL Team 1, straight out the door to Iraq. Whenever I showed up there, our primary medic was going to backfill the medic in Afghanistan that was injured in an RPG hit. So here I am. I had 3 days of turnover, brand new, fresh off of the medical course, and now I'm the medical department head for our platoon in Iraq. So that was a learning curve right there, from going from all training to, hey, now you're the guy. You are the one we're turning to for all of our medical contingencies, planning, mission planning. Anything goes wrong, you're the guy there. So I grew up fast. And after that deployment, I ended up going to JTAC school. So then I had 2 extremely critical quals. And then between those 2, I wasn't getting a break.
Yeah, definitely. So you're fresh, you get done with your school, and then you go over, and then they put you. Yeah, that's the military for you, though. They're going to put you where they need you and where you're qualified to go at. And it seems like you did what you needed to do to survive and make sure the men came home with you. That's pretty neat. So how long were you in altogether in the military altogether? 18 years?
18 years. Yes.
And then you got what, medically retired, I
I
believe?
did get medically retired. I was trying to keep going. I was coming back off my 7th deployment. I also did, instructor duty, a lot of deployment, stuff like that. At Buds at 3rd phase. Coming back off of my 7th deployment, and some paperwork flagged somewhere. It was actually an error, but that forced me into a medical board, and I just kept fighting it. But the system was fighting against me, and the system wasn't wanting me to win. So after a period of time, just sending in plenty of evidence, documentation, letters from people that I served with. My OIC was shot in Afghanistan. I treated him there in the field. I did tons of dressing changes. Even he was able to stay. Okay, you guys have all seen Forrest Gump, right?
Mm-hmm.
He got shot in the ass.
Oh dang.
Yeah,
$1 million
he was
wound.
he was exactly $1 million wound, and he was breaking down from a security position. We'd been in it all day. We were trying to build a police checkpoint in Bad Guyville. It was the Tangy Valley. It was every time we went there, we were getting in a gunfight. So here we are trying to sit out there all day while heavy equipment's trying to fill HESCOs and set them up and stuff like that. So it was RPGs, gunfire all day long. We'd just taken a partner force casualty, got shot in the leg. I treated him, got a tourniquet on initially, did the assessment. Another medic came over. I rotated back to the security position that I was at. And then shortly after that, we're trying to make some moves. OIC breaks out of the cover that he had. As soon as he stepped out, sniper round right through both cheeks.
Ooh.
Right.
Oh.
So I always joke that he has 5 anus holes now.
Oh, I can only imagine. You wouldn't be able to sit down for a week of Sundays on that. Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. So
Wow.
it was interesting, but that was definitely an eye-opening experience for me, because I was this close to having 2 non-compressible hemorrhages on the same mission, which is, and both of them in the hip. So that, as you know, we got some medics on here. That is kind of the medic's worst nightmare. The first casualty that we had, there was only an entrance wound. I thought that was a little odd. But whenever we got feedback, they'd gotten him into surgery. It had gone in, hit the femur, ricocheted up, or redirected up, and got stopped by the femoral head. So based on geometry of fires and where he was in the battle space, I'm pretty sure that round skipped underneath the Humvee he was behind, then kicked up into his leg, lost a lot of that momentum, and kept it from shattering the bone or the hip. So I was very lucky there, and then I was very lucky with my OIC that it was, I mean, an inch in the other direction, and it would have been bad news.
That's crazy. That's crazy. So here you are. You go ahead, Stoff. Go.
So was that your first, was that one of your first missions outside the wire right there?
No, that was towards the tail end of my 5th deployment. So I'd been at it for a while. That was my 2nd rotation to Afghanistan. And then Iraq would have been the other major combat theater. I'd also previously deployed to the Philippines. The status of forces agreement with us there was we weren't allowed to position ourselves within small arms range of any target or move forward within small arms range of any conflicts that we might be advising or assisting from a distance. So that wasn't as kinetic, but we were very close to a lot of action. And in fact, the guys that I was training did some really good things. They did some personnel recoveries, and there was a lot going on. We just weren't allowed to be right in the thick of it.
Yeah. So the only reason I ask is, so you said when you basically got out of your medical training for the SEALs, you got thrown into this leadership position for your platoon. Well, the same thing happened to me. I got out of Sam Houston, went to my first unit. We're in Iraq later, and then because I was an E4 and everybody else was E3s, well, now here you are, senior medic. Make sure everybody's taken care of. So understand that.
It's a lot of responsibility. You definitely feel that weight.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, I can only imagine. You get done with your medical training, and then you get shipped overseas, and they put you in a unit, and they're like, "Oh, well, you're the senior guy. You got more calls than the person below you, so you're the HDIC." And I'm not even going to say what that means to all you people out there because of Reach Across America. But you're now the HDIC, and you're you know planning contingencies and stuff like this for if somebody gets you know wounded in battle or whatever. Not you're planning all the contingencies just in case. And uh, I bet you that was definitely a shock to the system. Because here you are, you're learning on the fly, but you're trying to teach on the fly as well. So yeah,
Oh yeah.
I can only fathom,
So well,
because
I got lucky. I got lucky because we had 10th group there with us. And so I went over and trained with their medic for like a week and just random training. And so I got really lucky that we were right there with 10th group, because had we not been, I would have been like this, deer in headlights, like have no idea what I'm doing. So
yeah, you would have been like me when I went to Haiti the first time there, or the only time I've been to Haiti in '99. Learning, leaving the country, United States for the first time, and being a fresh 18-year-old in another country, especially a third world country, and we're supposed to be there on a humanitarian slash QRF mission. That's what our mission was, and um, it was eye opening. I can only fathom. What's
oh
going
yeah.
on, Rich LaMonica with the Misfit Nation? How are you, brother? So you did 18 years, right? And
Yes.
you get out of the military because an error in paperwork, which the military never has errors in paperwork, never.
Can't
Um,
can't believe that either. What a surprise.
so what was your transition like?
Whew. So it was rough. I'm not gonna lie. Um, I was transitioning from active duty to reserves at this point. Um, done a lot of work. Was time for me to slow down the throttle a little bit. And an important thing to note is the healthcare coverages for active duty and the healthcare coverages for reservists are completely different. TRICARE systems are a lot more cumbersome, and the referral process is a lot more cumbersome than it is for active duty. And even with active duty, to get certain types of care, that's still not easy. It is still a complicated system to navigate TRICARE, even for active duty. So I had been working with our IDC, which is an independent duty corpsman. So they kind of work a little bit more at the provider level before I went on this deployment. And he had noticed that my pre-deployment questionnaire had been answered a little too honestly for some of the PTSD related things. So we worked it out that maybe I retake that assessment, and maybe he works to help me get care while we're doing this and follow on care afterwards. Okay, great. Let's do it. Volunteered to do another back-to-back. And treatment was progressing. We were getting somewhere, but right before we got to kind of because there was referrals and this, right before we got to like actually getting a prescription and actually getting a treatment plan, it's about time for us to go back home.
Mm.
So I'm thinking, all right, I'm going through a medical processing unit. That seems like the easiest thing to do. We already have all of the results for all of the tests. Everything's right here in black and white. Yeah, maybe it's in Korean, but some of it's in English. You know what I mean? And anybody that can read the charts can read this. So, all right, should be easy to go. And of course, the reason I didn't get it is because a form updated while we were in Korea. And so they didn't kick it back to me. I'm just following up saying, hey, when can I go back in town to revisit this? And they're like, oh, the form, there's a new version. So that one's obsolete. Here, fill this out. And it'll take us another like 3 weeks to process it. Great. So I just decided to just rip back home, try to take care of it at the medical out processing, where they're going to take me from active duty to the reserves. And it was kick the can down the line. I'm managing it all right. I'm trying to work through my team, trying to work through the VA. And a little thing that might have shaken things up a little bit, called COVID-19, started happening right around that time. I'm transitioning out. I have all the jobs that I've been trying to get for years. Really, really good job in the K4 for some work with the State Department. a bunch of other really cool contract jobs, some more fun ones and some more work-related ones. And everything's just tracking. Everything's going to be going great. I take my first gig. I'm a set medic, security, and safety for a reality show being filmed in Honduras. And while we're there, the borders closed down for COVID. So we got trapped in Honduras. Martial law was declared. It was pretty chaotic there for a while, but we were able to get everyone back home, back to their home of record, if you will, without anyone contracting COVID. And we flew through Miami. So it was a big hotbed at the time. And so that's whenever things really started going downhill for me, and my symptoms started really kind of spiking. Not to mention, none of those referrals were going through now that everything was kind of shutting down indefinitely. So my transition was something that I hope no one has to go through.
Yeah, it sounds like it's pretty rough, especially at that time when everything was shut down. Here you are, you served in the military for 18 years. You're getting out and you're trying to get everything lined out, ready to go, and everything's shutting down on you where you can't get your referrals and all of that craziness uh, to go the way you need it to go, so you can make sure you're taken care of. So did you have are you married?
I'm not married, so that was a good thing. I wasn't like I have a bunch of kids, a wife, anything like that were dependent on me to get them through. So that took a lot of stress off, but a lot of me was shutting down. A lot of my function was stopping to work the way it's intended to work. So luckily I had a good support network. My family, parents, some of my team buddies. There was a good rally, and they made sure that I was at least in an area with a good support network. And what the non-medical people could do in the community, they did well. So I definitely want to give kudos to all of your bystander intervention type people. People seeing something going on, saying something, rallying people that can get help. That was done pretty expertly. So I am definitely grateful for all of those people.
Yeah, I like the ones that are out there that are, advocating to help our brothers and sisters out there, because unfortunately there's a lot of veterans that slip through that crack, that don't get the bystander help. And they become part of that 22. And one of our mottos here on Homefront Sitrep is to be someone stranger. That's our motto, because we know, we as veterans, we don't like asking for help most of the time. But if we're out and about and somebody comes up to us and say, "Hey, how you doing?" We're going to give the red flags. I'm okay. I'm hanging in there. I'm living a dream. Something of that nature. But that's when we have to ask that next hard question. Hey, how are you really doing? Because when you can tell by looking in somebody's eyes if they're having a good day or a bad day. So
Right.
you just have to ask that next hard question. How are you really doing? And be ready for that conversation. Could be a 5-minute conversation. Could be a 8-hour conversation. You just got to be ready for it. So, man, so you wrote a book, or are you in the process of writing a book?
I'm in the process of writing the book. The rough draft is finished. I'm doing my first revision and about to start getting some beta readers in within the next week or so.
Nice. Now, is that your time in service, or where does it start? Where does it end?
So it is a little bit untraditional, I think, for as far as a lot of books go, especially if they are autobiographical. It does not really follow a linear timeline. What I'm hoping to accomplish, some of the things I'm hoping to accomplish with the book are developing a strong mindset, taking the skills that helped me be the type of person that could get through intense special operations selection training, and then also be extremely successful on 7 deployments, and taking some of those attributes that can lead you down that road to success. So it is an affirmation that has keyword attributes, and those keywords are the chapter titles. So while it might not be a linear progression of, oh, I did this before the military, I did this during, deployment 1, 2, 3, I'm taking key stories from some of those parts of my life. Sometimes they're things that I did well. Sometimes they're things that I learned from screwing things up. And
Yeah.
I'm incorporating those into the narrative along with external research, external books if it was on the topic. You know what I mean? So it's not just stories, but also backed up by a lot of data. So that's what I'm trying to bring in is, hey, this is your roadmap. This can be your roadmap to success, whether you're just starting out in high school or whether maybe you've been in business for yourself or you've been a professional for quite some time. There's some really good personal growth nuggets scattered all throughout that book. So I'm really hoping to help people develop their mindset. And also if they have gone through some of the things that I've gone through and a lot of other veterans are going through, some of those dark places fighting with their demons, I'm hoping that it can also be a path out of that darkness.
Yeah. So what's the title going to be?
The title is going to be Indomitable Mindset.
Ooh, I like it. I like it. All right. So you're gonna trying to figure out how to word this correctly. So basically, what you're trying to do is take the mindset of veterans, like kind of like feelings and stuff, how you are at certain points in your life when it comes to certain things, and you're trying to break it down so they understand. Is that kind of what we're going after?
Yes, giving them some frame
Break it
to
down, Barney
understand.
style a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I like, I like it. Okay, I like it. Hmm. Okay. So it says here in your bio that you're an educator, a speaker, medical and security industry consult, author, and podcaster. So what when you when you do speaking engagements, what do you particularly speak on during these engagements?
So a lot of times I would speak on similar topics, mindset. I would speak on I would also have some engagements where I'm helping with peak performance. So mindset's a part of it, but there's other aspects too. So some of them were more active, like labs, if you will. You know what I mean? It's not just, hey, you're not there. They're getting out there. They're doing some physical activity things as well, putting some stress on them and also giving them some key communication, leadership, organizational management type nuggets that they can take with them back to their office, back to their boardroom, back to their team, whatever that might be. Some of the more prolific ones were I got to consult with the Novo Nordisk bicycle team, and every single one of those people on the team were diabetic. And what
Hmm.
some of the management was having some issues with was, since there's so few people with that type of diabetes that are also elite athletes that can perform at that level, they sometimes didn't have the most aggressive mindset. They pretty much know their contract's going to get renewed, so maybe they're not going to push themselves in this part or in that part. And the management set up a postseason vacation for them in sunny San Diego, and they got hit with the surprise, oh no, this isn't a vacation. This is a Navy SEAL run mental endurance
Oh man.
session. So there was a
Welcome
lot
to
of
boot
mind
camp.
games that were going on with them. I did not set that up. I did not choose for that to happen, but that was the script that we were running with. So we worked with it.
Hmm. Welcome to the DOD.
Right.
Welcome to your surprise boot camp.
Yes, exactly.
So
Exactly.
let's talk about the podcast a little bit that you do. So the podcast is called Two Promises Podcast. Let's talk about that a little bit. What got you into wanting to start a podcast? And then how did you go about deciding on what niche you want to be at or be in with your? like our podcast niche is highlighting veteran service organizations from around the country, the mom and pops. That's our primary niche. So how did you go about saying, "Hey, I want to start a podcast," and then how did you figure out what niche you wanted to get into?
That's a great question. So I was mostly outside of the limelight for my entire career. And depending on how things went, I might have had to kind of fade out as well. But I did recognize that there was a need out there. That, I mean, with 22 a day in a very small population, and it's not like it's something that's surprising. It is expected and known that people going into these types of situations are highly likely to have some type of trauma that they're going to need to deal with, that they're going to need to sort out on the back end. And whenever that many people in such a small population with a known expected medical presentation are committing suicide, that is a major red flag. Something is extremely wrong. So there's a lot of great organizations, and I'm so glad that you guys are out there promoting them, getting them advocacy, getting them getting awareness out there. And it's only through people like us that there will be a change made. So I recognize, one, I was a medic mostly for trauma, like physical trauma, but I was often approached as a medic in the platoon about the mental side as well. So while I was never specially educated to be a psychiatrist or a psychologist or anything like that, we still do training on that level to at least get people to the right resources. So I knew that there was just a big hole in the funnel, a hole in the system that needed to be plugged. And what's a doc gonna do, man? They're gonna plug that hole, right? So
Yep.
I took my experiences, and it was like right as I was starting the podcast that I really went into my darkness. It hit me full bore, and I won't get into too much of that, but again, just broad strokes, because of the broken system, I was supposed to be able to just walk right into a polytrauma clinic that was there to designed to treat TBI and then the associated psychiatric disorders, usually depression and post-traumatic stress. Those are the major ones that are usually present together, with other things. I was supposed to just walk straight into a clinic, but because of those insurance referral systems, the paperwork errors, I did not get into those clinics, and it took me 2 years of fighting for my own advocacy, personal advocacy, and just trying to find any place that would get me the treatment that I needed. So it was a very, very dark time for me. Eventually, a charity. So that's why I'm saying so good on you guys for getting charities' names out there, getting them in front of people, because you don't know which charity it's going to be that's going to be able to pick that person up, put them in the right direction, and totally change their life. So if it was not for a charity intervention, I would have never, well, who knows how long, but it still took 2 years. I got to a brain clinic in Colorado, and that really started me back on my path to care. And I've just been getting steadily better ever since then.
That's amazing. Yeah, because some of these mom and pop nonprofits out there, like the Hope Project down in Florida, or Montana Warriors on the Water, or Warriors Next Adventure. These are like, you got one down in Florida, you got one in Montana, you got one in Minnesota. And they're only region. They're only to that local to that area there. But let's say Andrew, who lives down in Florida, he wants to go do race car driving because he's in his his reset is adrenaline, whether it's parachuting or race car driving. So there's Warriors to Racer in Tennessee that he probably doesn't even know about, that does endurance racing for veterans. And everybody on the crew, from the low man on the totem pole, the pit crew, tire changer, whatever, is a veteran. The
That's
drivers
awesome.
are There's 4 drivers that are veterans, and they all take turns rotating. So you might be a driver this week, but next week you might be the gas can holder or whatever. But everybody
Right.
gets that, everybody gets that shot. And that's what we love doing with Homefront Sitrep is highlighting these mom and pop grassroots nonprofits out there that you and I might not know about, the ones in upstate Washington, like Northwest Battle Buddies or the Fallen Outdoors, and so that's what we love doing is highlighting the ones that still care because a lot of these bigger ones, and I'm going to throw them in quotation, I'm not going to name no names, but a lot of the bigger ones out there, they see us three right here on the screen as a number. They don't see us as the human that we are or the veteran that we are. All they see is that number and where their funding's going to come from. So that's why I love highlighting the mom and pop, the grassroots nonprofits out there because they still care about us as veterans. So no, that's so how long have you been doing your podcast?
So I started it in September of 2020, and I got around 40 episodes up, I believe. And then that's whenever I started getting into some more like the actual screening for some different organizations within the State Department. And some of that activity was a little discouraged. It was also whenever I'm still fighting to just get treatment and just going through this whole bureaucratic nightmare. And for a combination of both of those reasons, I took my foot off the gas on that project, and I had to kind of just focus in on me. I was definitely unwell, definitely not healthy. I was sleeping maybe 3 hours a night, usually an hour and a half. And it was just the most awful sleep that you could imagine. I would wake up just in knots, pins and needles on all my extremities. Holding up a coffee mug was 10 out of 10 pain just because of all those pins and needles just wrecking through it and the terrible quality of sleep. And once I finally got to the brain clinic, like, you're not even resting enough to let the parts of your brain reset enough so that you can control your thoughts. Because I was just dealing with this crazy rumination. Like, no matter how much I tried to redirect it to something positive or anything like that, it was just negative thoughts that were incessant. I would get maybe a few seconds of reprieve from them, and then I'd be in a negative spiral. And they were really helpful in helping me get my sleep reset and getting me into some of those better, deeper levels of sleep. And from there, I've been able to just kind of tick away at things and just really improve a lot.
Nice. So, you put the podcast on the back burner just so you
Right.
can focus on yourself, which we talk about that a lot here on Homefront Sitrep is, um, especially if you're in the servant leadership role out there, right? Um, you have to focus on self-care because compassion fatigue is a real thing. Like with me, I usually try to take 2 weeks at the end of the year where I just decompress from the whole year and just focus on the wife and the kids and not worry about the podcast. Now,
That's
granted,
great.
leading up to that, I stress myself out by making sure I have enough episodes to pre-recorded episodes to go on, but once I get that decompression time and just focus on me and not the podcast at all, that I always think that's a wonderful thing to have. And my wife is pushing now. She wants me to take more time off. So I'm in June we gotta go we're going on family vacation. Well, normally what I would do is take my podcast equipment with me and do it while I'm there, but I'm gonna let Gunny and Candace run the show while I'm gone doing what I need to do. If Gunny's back and because Gunny's in, like I said, he's in Iwakuna right now, and he does team fast tracks with the professional skydive team,
Awesome.
and so he's always gone. He's always doing something. So, uh, but no, we're gonna make it work uh,
That's great.
and see what I need to do to make sure I can focus because I got a senior who's getting ready to graduate. She's getting ready to go to college in August, and then my youngest is a junior who'll be graduating next year. So
Big
we'll
life
have
milestones.
oh yeah, definitely. So I'm definitely gonna have to play around with some things and adjust some things here and there, and uh, hopefully, uh, the pieces will fall into place. Which the man upstairs is leading the show. He's guiding me. If he tells me that that's what I need to do, then we'll figure it out. But we'll go from there. So have you started recording any more new episodes, or what's your process going
I
on right
have.
now?
Yes. I started launching new episodes at the beginning of March, and I drop one every Monday morning. So I've been doing a little bit of what you kind of described. I've been, whenever I have time, pre-recording in advance as much as I can, and then getting those things edited, and then I have like a little bit of reserve that I can work through. So just like you said, I'm not feeling that pressure every single week of, oh man, I got to find somebody, or I've got to, jump on something and record. So that's been a really good way for me to manage my time, still be able to get content out there. And it's just been steadily growing. And I've been getting to meet people like yourself and some really great guests. So I have really been enjoying getting back to it. It was necessary that I did step away, but I know I'm in a healthier place, and I know that the quality that I can deliver now is far superior to what it was whenever I was taking care of what needed to get taken care of here.
So do you feel like the podcast is kind of like your therapy session, because you get to talk with other like-minded veterans out there that might have gone through something similar to what you went through?
Absolutely. I've found that it has been a really great therapeutic outlet. I wouldn't say that it is, the end all be all or anything like that. But if you're someone that is in the creative space, or you're someone who wants to go into the creative space, or you just want to try something new, I would say go for it. Even if it's just, trying to be a guest on somebody's show or starting your own, because having those conversations with different people, it does so many things. One, it's cathartic. It lets you kind of vent it out. It lets you get it out there. And then it also helps show you that you're not alone, that you're not the only person that's going through this. The problems you're having, a lot of other people are having. And when you guys can sit down together, recognize that, and then work together to heal, to get better, it is, like you said, very therapeutic. And it's a great way to bond, and to also advocate for veterans issues and get the word out on a lot of these great charities.
Heck yeah. That's what I love about doing the podcast. For me, it doesn't eliminate, the problems, the demons I face. It does help minimize. And then when I get to talk with veterans like you, or Stalls, or uh, any one of the 200 plus that I've had on the show, just hearing different stories, um, but they're very similar, because we all do this path in life, right?
Hmm.
Um, we served in the military. Like Stalls and I could have been in the same place at the same time, but our experience was totally different,
Mhm.
and
Right.
that's what I love about hearing, all these different veteran stories. And then I love hearing what they're doing now. Like when I first met you and we first started talking, here you are, you're a Navy SEAL, which, if you served in the military, Navy SEALs, uh, Marine Corps, MARSOC, Delta sorry about that. Delta Force. Those are the guys that we, as infantry guys, that's who we look up to. We aspire to be the Navy SEAL, or the Force Recon, or the MARSOC, or the Delta Force. That's who we aspire to be. So, when we started talking, it was just like, man, this guy's got a heck of a story. And you do. Every veteran has a story to tell, but your story might be a little bit more above than the normal guy. You know what I'm saying? So, because here you are, you did 7 deployments with special operations. You're a medic, which my sister-in-law, she's a medic. Her husband's a medic, and it's just amazing that here you are, you served your country 18 years and you're still serving your country, whether you're doing it in the role of as a podcast host, whether you're doing it as a speaker and you're going to all these different places and you're speaking on what your leadership roles and how to combat this or how to combat that. That's no, that's pretty amazing, my friend. Pretty amazing.
Thank you,
Stalls, you've been
sir.
awful quiet.
Well, I'm just listening, man.
Questions, Stalls?
Yeah, so a part of your intro bio says that you're working towards, uh changing the systemic look that everyone has with mental health. And I think that's something that, you know, um is really near and dear to my heart. That's why I started my nonprofit organization. And like you said, bringing people to those organizations that help people in their own community. That's kind of like what my organization is meant to do. But for me, mental health was learning how to deal with what I experienced and use it in a constructive way rather than a deconstructive way, because I had no purpose, no drive, no nothing when I got out. And then find my purpose, find my drive, and now I'm using my past traumas to turn it into a success story for other people. And it sounds like that's a lot like what you've done for yourself.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Yeah, and that's a really great way to put it is, hey, whatever this trouble that I went through, whatever, were my stumbling blocks, what can I do to pass that on to maybe make that road a little bit easier for the person behind me. So, and man, you hit the nail on the head when you said channeling that energy into something constructive as opposed to destructive. That's vital.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It took me a while. Don't get me wrong. I got out in 2012, and I think it wasn't until 2021 when I finally started to see, hey, something's broken. Something's got to get fixed. And if you don't fix it, you're not gonna live to see 2022. So yeah, I really like what you're doing. And it sounds like your book is kind of doing the same thing. You're taking, attributes, and you're telling your stories that go around like that said attribute, and you're kind of just telling your life experience without going in. And I like the nonlinear approach to your book. That's awesome, because it really, for someone who sits down and reads it, yeah, our brain works in a linear way. When we're reading stories, we want to be able to go, okay, here's the start, here's the middle, here's the end. But for yours, it sounds like the reader is going to have to stay engaged with the book to really understand your message. And I think that's awesome.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I'm really excited. I did have a few people already kind of pre-beta read it, and I've gotten some really good feedback on the chapters that I've sent out. So that is helping keep me motivated and keep me encouraged to keep grinding through, because it is a beast of a project, but it's really fulfilling, and I know it's going to be a very good product once it's finally said and done.
Yeah, I'm
Absolutely.
excited. I'm excited to read it once it's said and done. Because my brain, like Stahl says, it's some days it's linear, some days it's not. It just depends on what mood I'm in that day, because I'm so scatterbrained most days. My wife will tell you we can have a conversation 5 minutes ago, and I done forgot it now because I've moved on. Because I've done jumped to a different aspect of my life.
Totally get
Um,
it.
so she
Well,
gets so frustrated with me.
well, it's like I tell my wife, my day, you're over here playing checkers, I'm over here playing 3D chess. All right. So like I'm having to move things around in a much more different way. And that's how my brain works.
Yeah,
So
same here. So one thing we haven't touched on, you are now in the legislative role, or kind of sort of like advocating for policy changes and stuff like that. Are you doing that locally, or are you actually trying to do that on a national level?
A little bit of both. I have been working pretty closely with my congressman's office, and in fact, at the end of May, I have a meeting with him directly, Zoom. So I'm really looking forward to that. I feel like I've been building up to this moment for quite a few years now, just working with people, staff members in his office, either remotely in DC or here locally. So we've been working on just various things that have been ancillary to this, and we've kind of had a few back and forths on some things, improvements that we think we can make. And then in the end of May, I'm going to be actually getting to speak with Congressman Boss himself. And he happens to be, he's I'm his direct constituent, which is like, that's going to be very rare. And then the other part of it is he is the chairman of the VA Oversight Committee.
Ooh, nice.
So of all the things that could line up and just be perfect place, perfect time, etc. Because a lot of times what I've learned getting into this is even if I reach out to, say, a team guy buddy who, does some legislative stuff in Texas or whatever, there's a limited amount that they can do if you're not their direct constituent. So
Right.
a lot of these people, even though I've talked to their offices or anything like that, they're like, hey, we'd love to help you. We're doing everything we can for our direct constituents. We support you, but there's no really thing we can really intervene with. But now here we are, and I'm able to finally, through going through the, working your way up, finally being able to have a face-to-face, at least via technology, with the chairman. So I'm really excited for that. I'm going to have to get myself nice and cleaned up a little bit. And I've been trying to get my talking points down to the right agenda length, but we're making progress.
Well, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
That's something we actually touched on in our last episode was legislation.
That's great.
And it's something that needs to change. It's something that needs to happen because this one size fits all mental health approach that our system has is not a good approach. It's a one size fits one. Each treatment needs to be individualized for each person. And until there's legislative change in our government, then there won't be an end to the 22 a day, which we all know Operation Deep Dive proved that it's more like 44 a day, because the 8 states that they did their study on, they realized that number was skewed by 25% less than what the actual number was. So legislative change has to happen. I think that's awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we've talked about that numerous times, whether it's on the Tip the Spear podcast or Homefront Sitrep, and it's going to take a grassroots movement. It's going to take a bunch of us veterans to come together, and we're going to have to focus. Like here in Kentucky, we'll have to focus in Kentucky. Stalls will have to focus in Florida. You'll have to focus. I think you're in
Southern Illinois.
Yeah. So you'll have to focus there, and then you got the ones that are in Vermont, so we'll have a grassroots movement in all the states. And what we'll have to do is go to our state house, talk with the congressmen, the veteran oversight, or the VA oversight committees, and the Veterans Affairs committees that they have at the state capitol, and work on getting legislation changed at the local levels. And then once we do that, then we can take it to DC. And then there's Bramer's group. That's somebody that pops right up. Don Bramer, who's a senior naval intelligence officer that's retired. He's now a military analyst for CNBC and NBC and all the big name people up there. But he's a lobbyist for veterans in DC with the Bramer's group. And then he's also the founder of the American Freedom Fund up there in DC. And, it's going to take us at a small grassroots movement to make changes within our state. And then we're going to all have to come together and go to DC and say, all right, this is what we need to do. This is the senators and the congressmen and everybody that we need to talk to in the federal level so we can make these changes. And I think that's the route that I've noticed in the last few years, that everybody's like, all right, well, we need to start doing this to make these changes. So I love the fact that that's something that you're pushing for in your state. And I know Kimberly Moyers, she's out in Texas. She works with one of your friends. This must be somebody you know. Do you know a Phil Ashio?
Oh my. Maybe it's an alias.
He said, "Do you have any OnlyFans?" Oh, but
I have been pretty popular apparently, so thanks to all my fans out there.
he's got an page too, so you need to go check his feed out. Uh,
Foot
but
model.
no, no, I love it. I think we do need to start at the local level and then move our way up to the federal level to make changes for for future generations. Not, because it will never see that change. Unfortunately, I'm 47 years old, and do I think there's going to be change in the VA system that's been broken since Vietnam? No, I don't think it's going to change fast enough for us. I think when my youngest, when she gets done with the Air Force, because or my oldest, she's going into the Air Force. She might see change in her time,
Mhm.
but I think it's going to take a lot of us vets, the Gen X vets, to say, all right, this is what we need to do. This is how we need to go about doing it. And I think we need to start making that push because, like I said, I don't think we'll see it in our lifetime, probably.
Yeah, the first step is changing the systemic view on mental health. For the longest time, mental health was viewed as a taboo subject. You couldn't talk about mental health. You couldn't go see anyone for mental health. So as soon as we start to change that tide, which I think we're heading in the right direction, once that is done and over with, the legislative change will be easier.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah,
So
it's
just
like they say, change starts local. Change starts with you, and then from you, then you're pushing that out into your community, and you've been hitting it on the head. Just grassroots movement. It's going to take a lot of us, getting ourselves to a point where we can have those conversations without going into the red or into the black or anything like that, because you're just so mad about it. And then once we've gotten some of that work here, we can extend that out, and then we're just brick by brick by brick, we're able to kind of come together, strengthen each other, and then people are seeing, like you said, hey, now we're able to talk about mental health, and now it's not such a taboo subject. Now they're saying, oh yeah, I mean, who was abused as a kid or who wasn't, you know what I'm saying? And by being able to find a generation that can stand up for mental health and being able to help as many people as possible get access to those therapies to get them better, you're going to pass on so much less of that trauma to the next generation because of the trauma that you've experienced. And being able to break that chain is, like you said, obviously it's a generational thing. So probably won't see it, but we can see the start. We can see ourselves get broken free from it, and we can see ourselves work towards it and know that by the time those big other pieces fall into place, I call it like the spillover effect, right? Like we've, as veterans, have been able to get fixed or whatever, and it spills over into the communities. And from there, it's not just veterans that are now being able to get treatment. It's veterans that are helping getting them to treatment. And then now, even if you weren't a veteran, if you've had a bad upbringing or something like that, there's help for you too, and it's coming.
Yep.
I love it. I love it.
Lay the foundation. Lay the foundation.
Yeah, and that's what we got to do, brick by brick, block by block, stone by stone. We got to lay that foundation for future generations of veterans out there that are going to be out there, whether they're serving now or they're serving, going to serve 10, 15 years down the road. We got to lay that foundation for them. That way, one, we can get the VA system fixed, because we know that the VA is designed for us to get frustrated and to give up, which should not be that way. I think if you signed your name on that dotted line, um, your benefits that you serve for, you should have those. I think veterans should have free health care for the rest of their life. That's just my personal opinion. That's nobody else's opinion, just mine. But I think veterans should have free health care for the rest of their life. And if they're dealing with mental health or whatever, They should be able to do what they need to do, uh, and not have to jump through the red tape to get it. That's just my personal opinion, and hopefully one of these days it'll be that way.
Right. And I've seen it myself, and I've heard it even without me bringing it up. I've heard other veterans say it to me that the damage that was done just in seeking the help and trying to advocate, maybe there was something messed up, who knows? I don't know every single veteran's stories, but they have echoed to me time and again that the damage that was done and the moral injury and the betrayal that they encountered whenever they finally did say, okay, there's something not right here, and it's something I can't get over myself, and I'm down far enough that I'm actually going to ask for it, even though it is taboo, and even though it might ruin my career, or even though it might make me look bad, or might make me, look like a sissy or whatever, whatever those things that they're still going through, that they're overcoming inside their own head, just to say, hey, training timeout or whatever, I need help. Can somebody do something? I don't know where
Yeah.
to go now. And then whenever you just spin it and just throw it in their face and make it a painful thing, then all of that indoctrination that they've done all through boot camp, we're not going to leave anybody behind. We're here for the team. We're here for each other. And so they've got all this in their identity of what we do for each other. And then they go to what is supposed to be their help, and it's not. And that
Right.
betrayal and moral injury, and then the fight for it, and many times is more damaging than whatever the initial issue was, because it just creates a more complex trauma involved with it. So yes, right there with you. There needs to be changes, because if we could just stop eating our young, if you will, we could clean up a lot of the problems that we have.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So my nephew's serving right now. He's overseas. Last I heard, he was in Kuwait. I don't know exactly where he's at, but last I heard, he was in Kuwait. And I told him, I say, look, when I was served, we were told not to go to battalion aid station, to it for any problem. If you can deal with it on your own, you deal with it on your own. Don't report it. I said, but I'm going to tell you right now, that was probably the worst thing that I ever did. Because when I was in Haiti, I was so messed up in the brain because of the stuff that I seen there, that it's still affecting me now. And I've been out since 2004. And now I'm seeing my therapist and going through all of that stuff. But I wish I had done it sooner, because for one, my kids that I didn't have when I was in the military, they have to deal with dad's PTS and my symptoms. And like I've told them time after time, when you come to wake me up, grab me by my foot, or just say, "Hey, Dad, don't come shake me at my head, because more than likely you're going to get punched." And I don't want to ever do that to my kids. So I even tell my wife. My wife will actually get up out of bed when she's trying to wake me up, because she's afraid that I'll just backhand her or something. So I just like so. But I think if I had not been worried that it was going to take me out of my job, because I was infantry, I didn't want to get sidelined. I would have talked to
Right.
somebody back then and said, "Hey, I need help because this is messing with my brain." And then after getting recalled in 2020 or 2002, after I got out, so I got out right before 9/11 happened. 9/11 happened, and I told my mom, I said, "I'm going back." And she goes, "No, you're not." I said, "You watch, I'm going back." Sure enough, I got that Western Union, "Please report back to Camp Lejeune for combat refresher training." So I got sent back to Lejeune, and then the stuff that I saw after that time until 2004, it's still messing with me now. And I was one of the dumb ones. I didn't start going to the VA until the end or the middle of 2023. And I've been out since 2004. So if you're out there, you're a veteran or you're a service member getting ready to transition, make sure your paperwork is in order for the VA. Make sure you get everything ready to go. And by the time you get out your EAS, you're already in the VA. Make sure you see your therapist. Make sure you see any doctor you need to see. Just make sure everything is in there like it's supposed to be.
Absolutely. Go
That's
see the
right.
doctors,
Because
get it documented. You want it in the record. I followed some of that same advice that, you were given. Hey, don't talk about it. Don't put it in your survey. Everything you answer yes to just means that that's going to be another flag, and it could affect your clearance. It could affect this.
Yep.
You, if you know something's broken, say something and get the help that you need. And
that's right.
we're hoping that
Document.
absolutely.
Yeah. So we're almost running out of time, but here's the last question that I'm gonna pose to both of you. So this was a question. We just had our tip the spear on April 30th, and we closed the show down. We were sitting in the green room. We were all just chit chatting. The question was posed. All right, you go through basic training, right? They break you down and they rebuild you, and now you're a lean, mean fighting machine, right? You do your time in service, whether it's 4 years, whether it's 20 years. You do your time in service. When we get out, why can't the military go through have the people that are transitioning go through a program to help reacclimate veterans or military member back to the civilian sector? And so I was sitting there thinking about it. I was like, man, that's something that could possibly work. And what I mean by that is, if let's say 6 months, you got 6 months left on your contract, right? They You pull you out of your job, whatever you're doing, and you start going through these classes. Whether you need psychotherapy, whether you need to see a therapist, whatever kind of therapy you're going to need, they send you through an intensive program to help you reacclimate to civilian sector. I think that would work, because when I got out, I had 1 day or 2 days, and that was it. It was like, hey, you're getting out, turn your gear in, boom, you're done. That's it. Handshake on the way out the door. That was it. And nowadays they have the TAPS classes, or SEPS classes, whatever the heck they're called.
Yep.
So what do you guys think about the military sending service members to some kind of um, reacclimation classes?
So, me and Unapologetic, we talked about this on our last podcast, I believe, or we talked about it on a pre-recorded podcast. But the Marine Corps actually does something like that now. It's like a week long, but it gets you ready to get out. It doesn't get you ready to reacclimate to civilian lifestyle, like your civilian life. So having to understand that, when you get out now, you don't have free healthcare. You have to actually have a job where you have civilian insurance that doesn't necessarily always cover the illnesses or disabilities that you now have. The military doesn't walk you through the VA claims process anymore. They have a counselor from the VA come and instruct you on how to go and get online and log in and set up your account and stuff like that. But we talked about it, and I think that there should be a 6-month transition period from the time you're getting out to the time you're getting to go into the civilian world, where you go through classes that teach you how to write a resume, fill out job applications, fill out college applications, get you ready to go to college if that's the course that you want to take when you get out. But there needs to be a system put in place, because this, and I hate to use this term, this pump and dump that we have right now doesn't work.
Right.
Because what are you doing on the weekends? You're out partying, or blowing off some steam with your buddies. Well, now when you have nothing to do and you get out, what are you doing? Blowing off some steam by yourself. So now you're by yourself, you're drinking, you're probably smoking, you're not in anymore, so you don't have any reason to take a drug test. So it's it's a snowball effect.
Yeah, and there's nobody there next to you to check you to be like, hey bud, maybe you're going a little bit too far there. You
Right.
in the team, you've always got your battle buddy, or
Yeah.
swim buddy, whatever it is, and you can be like, hey, why don't we just head back to the barracks or back to freaking home or whatever? Let's pump the brakes on
Right.
that.
Exactly. So I think a 6-month program. Now, do I think that the military or the government has the funding to do something like that for every person who gets out? Probably not. So something better than a week-long course on this and that.
Absolutely. I worked with a Marine Corps veteran and a TAPS representative, Tragedy Assistant Program for Survivors. It's actually the sister of one of my best friends in high school. He was killed in Iraq early 2006, early 2006. Sorry. It's been 19 years. But we worked together on, I cannot remember the name of the VA thing, but they were doing like an all call for anybody who had an idea that they wanted to push. And if it got chosen, it could maybe get funding to kind of build it. And we each did a different piece. My buddy's sister Rachel Hunzel, she wrote up her write-up. My buddy Joe Welver, he was a Marine guy who was there in Kyle's unit whenever he was killed. And then my part of the puzzle was I can't remember how long it is. It might be just a month, could be 2 months, but it is kind of what you said. But it would be at least a way to triage people and see, okay, what does this veteran need? Let's do an assessment of them. Maybe they need the full, if you're thinking 6 months, maybe somebody needs a full 6 months. Okay, we'll throw them in a 6 month thing. Okay, you maybe less, right? But it would also be someone there that would actually give them a very good medical evaluation so that they could really understand what they have going on and get them on a path to care. But also in it is, so by that point I had been through the Brain Institute, so I was able to pick and pull. I've been through the TGPS or whatever, the transition program 3 times. So I was kind of like taking what elements were really effective for me, what therapies were really effective for me. And I'm not saying that what helps me helps everybody, but if you could at least plug all of them into and I had like a month schedule, you know what I mean? This is what we do this day. This is what we do this day. And it took them all through that process, medically and career wise, to make sure that what they actually did have got documented. I'm not saying that, we're going to try to get everybody that goes through there to 100% or whatever. Like, no, whatever your issues are, what you need help with, what you've got, cool, we're going to get you there. And then they also have good job skills training. And I'd have to pull it up, but it follows down exactly what you're saying. So I think there's a lot of people all over the United States saying, this is what we want. This is what we need. This could help a lot. And like my mom's big talking points, she's in the mental health as well. She was a appointed special advocate for a while. So she would respond to crises. And one of her big things, for those high demographics of having some of these combat related issues. So combat veterans, infantry veterans, people who are very heavy in the combat arms special operations, they should not transition at all until they have gone to some type of a NICO, some type of polytrauma clinic, some type of specialist that can take and do an honest evaluation of them. Because let's face it, we mask our own symptoms, we ignore our own symptoms, we don't want to admit our own symptoms a lot of times. And so sometimes it does take somebody else to set us down and say, no, really, like you said at the very beginning of the cast, oh, how are you really? And then how long does that conversation go? So for people that are in those high demographics, they've been to combat or they've highly trained in the combat arms, they go through one regardless. Chances are we're exposed to some type of explosion. Might have been a mild TBI, might have been a repetitive things. A good buddy of mine went through buds with him, Brian Larkin. His dad was just on 60 Minutes. Brand new brain scans that were done for him because he knew he was unwell. He knew something was wrong. And I guarantee he was getting the same bureaucratic runaround that I ended up getting. And we didn't know how to help him. We could point him to what the best we could, but he's out, he's transitions, he's somebody else. We're still in the deployment cycle. But we're still trying to help. Anyway, unfortunately, he said multiple times, hey, I'm donating my body to science. Whenever I die, I want you to look at my brain. I want you to look at my organs. Something's not right. I don't know what it is, but it's not me. It's not just in my head. There's something wrong. So please take it, look at it, and find what it is. A lot of the trauma is going in through the orbits. And I mean, now that you once you say it, you know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That's the softest place. But all these areas right behind the eyes are getting messed up for a lot of combat veterans. And sometimes, from what the 60 Minutes and the research, his dad was a West Point Academy grad. But they were going in through the eyes, and that was affecting a lot of these processing centers. And sometimes it was even just repetitive machine gun fire or something like that. That concussive effect of the rounds going off out of the chamber was having, over time, enough effect to change the physical structure behind the eyes of the brain. So it's phenomenal, the amount of research there is. I know that there's therapies available that can help people get them out of those dark places. So now, just like we're making that bridge, we're building that bridge, and we're getting those people that need it, and we're getting them to those therapies that they need, because they exist. They're out there. They're funded somehow. So why deny it?
Yeah, and there's a lot of holistic treatments out there too, where it's non-medicated. But one of my good friends, Tim Thomas, who's an Australian special forces guy, he does breath work in bed. And I tell you, when I started his program doing breath work, it did help me sleep better at night. So I would do it first thing in the morning, do my breath work exercises, and then right before I go to bed, I would do them as well. And it and it does help. But he also was talking about, we as veterans, we see threat everywhere we look. We see threat. We go outside. We don't see the beauty that's outside. We see threats. So there's a guy that he met that helps veterans redo the rods and cones in your eyes. And it's a, you take your thumb and you just follow it with your eyes as far as you can go, and then you bring it back, and you watch it the whole way, and you do that 6 times this way, then you do it 6 times this way, and then you do up and down, and it's supposed to help reset your cones, the rods and cones in your eyes, because and then it'll help you see the beauty that's out there. So if you want to check out Tim Thomas, you can go to breathworkinbed.au. I think it's for Australia. But you can go check out Breathwork in Bed. And man, holistic. Me personally, I don't like taking medicine. I've told my doctors time after time I don't want to take medicines. If I can do it naturally, I want to do it naturally, but not. Y'all hear that static, or is it just me?
Yeah, give me 1 second. Might be
I
on
just
my end.
Yeah, I just heard a lot of static. But holistic medicine is better than taking, or the holistic approach is better than taking a shit ton of medicines that the VA pushes down our throats most of the time. So, but anyway, I hate to cut it loose, my friend. Is there anything else you want to say before we put you down in the green room and end the show? Because Reach Across America says I got to keep it about an hour and a half.
For me, I think it's been great. I think we covered a lot of the big topics, and we went really in a lot more depth and detail than I was expecting to go. And I'm really glad that we did, because I think it was a very important conversation to have. And I'm super grateful for you guys to have me on your show, ask me those deeper questions. And I can't say thank you enough. Appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate you coming on here and hanging out with us. One thing I want to ask you real quick: if somebody wants to get in touch with you or follow your journey, how would they go about doing that?
Right now, my most active community is on Facebook. It is the Two Promises. It's Two Promises. I'll make sure that you got a link to that. I'm also putting my podcast out on all the major podcast platforms. So wherever you find your podcast, it should be there. If not, please let me know so that I can fix it. Those are the major ones. I'm getting my website revamped now. It's just kind of a little bit of a work in progress, but that will be www.2-promises.com, www.2 spelled out TWO-promises.com. I got the Google
And
domain. It just hasn't populated quite right. Excellent. Yes, thank you so much.
so that's the Facebook link there if you want to go follow him on Facebook. The website, if you click on his website link, it's there, but there's just nothing there just yet. So, but you can also go save that as a favorite and check in later with that. But no, man, thank you for coming on here and hanging out with us. It's been our pleasure. And if you ever need a guest on your show, reach out to me, man. I'll be more than happy to come on your show, and I'm sure Andrew would too as well. So feel free to reach out to us anytime, brother.
Awesome. Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you all so much. I appreciate it.
Hey, if you want to hang out, we're just going to drop you down in the green room, and then we're going to close out the show.
Sounds great.
How cool was that, brother?
No, that was a good one.
It was a really, really, really good episode. I want to thank everybody from the TikTok communities that came in, the Facebook community, the LinkedIn, the YouTube that came in and watched. Make sure you go follow him on Facebook. Look up, or you just go to Google and type in Two Promises Podcast, and you can see all the platforms that he's on out there. That was Brent Loyd, Chief uh, uh, Special Operator, Navy SEAL in the house. So go check him out. I can't wait to see what he does legislative wise, talking to his local community, and then hopefully on the national level as well. Want to give a big shout out to our partners, Heroes Media Group, Reach Across America Radio, Veterans Voice Radio, Military United Podcast Stream. Also want to give a shout out to Elite Engraving for this badass hat. And then also Valor Coins and Pins for this. That was loud. Didn't mean to make it that loud. For this badass coin right here. That's the front. And that's the back of it right there. It's got our logo on it. Hashtag be somebody stranger. And you can find Homefront Sitrep on reachacrossamerica.org/radio at 11 p.m. on Thursday nights Eastern time zone. Also, go check out our homefrontsitrep.com. The link to the hats there. The link to the Marine It Down shirt is on there as well. At the end of the year, so we'll get 25% of each shirt sale. And we're going to take that money, we're going to donate that to a nonprofit. So we'll put all these nonprofits on a wheel, spin it. Whoever it lands on is getting that money. Same thing with the hats. We get 20% of each sale of each hat. So all of that money is going to go right back out into the veteran community, to these organizations, the mom and pops that still care about us as veterans. So go check out homefrontsitrep.com. And you can see all the nonprofits that we've had, all the veteran singers, business owners. They're all listed on there. I think I need to update it for the last few that we've had on, but they pretty much are all on there. Stalls, do you want to take this right here, right there?
Do I want to take it?
Yeah, do you want to take it? That's usually Gunny. Gunny usually says that one.
Yeah, Gunny does, but yeah, guys, absolutely. If you're going through something right now, reach out to somebody. Know that you're not alone, and as one of our brothers likes to say, we got your 360.
Hoorah, I love that. Yeah, hashtag be somebody stranger. What I mean by that, we as humans, we're more apt to talk to a complete stranger than the ones we love the most. So if you're out and about and you see somebody that looks like they're having a bad day, just go up and say, "Hey, how you doing?" And if they give you the red flags, "I'm okay, I'm hanging in there, I'm living the dream," then you really have to ask the next hard question. "Hey, how you really doing?" And be ready for that conversation. Could be a 5-minute conversation, could be an 8-hour conversation. Just be ready for that conversation. And if they say, "Hey, I got this problem," and you can help them with that problem because you know somebody, you get that person on the phone and say, "Hey, I got this veteran that needs your help." Connect them. Don't just say, "Here, take this phone number down and call this person," because more than likely they're not going to call. So you make that connection and make sure they get in touch with that person, and that person can come take care of that veteran. So, and this is another one. It takes a village. And that's the whole thing about doing this podcast, is building this village of people that we can reach out to. If they come up to, say, Stalls come up to me and says, "Hey, man, I'm really struggling right now. I need a service dog." I could be like, "All right, you got Dogs Helping Heroes, you got Northwest Battle Buddies, you got let's get you connected with them and see how quick we can get you a service dog." It's all about making those connections within the community, just to make sure everything goes the way it's supposed to go and no veteran is left behind. So, but other than that, man, I hate to end it. I say that every time I do a podcast episode, is I hate to end it, but we got to. So, like we always say on Homefront Sitrep, stay safe out there. We got your six. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed this show.
Suggestions and comments are always welcome.
Cannot wait to have another great show with y'all.
Don't forget you can find Homefront Sitrep on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Stay safe out there. I got your six.